to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a baller.
Welcome in. It's Wednesday, June 7th. We're back at it again on the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Berganoni, and I am joined by Michael Wright and Matthew Betz. I decided to use your full names.
How dare you?
Very formal.
No one calls me Michael, not even my mother.
She just yells?
What does she call you, Mikey?
She calls me the Hitman. Come on.
When did you get that upgrade?
When I decided that that's what people should call me. So I went and I sat mom and dad down, and I said, listen, I'm not a little boy anymore. I am the fantasy hitman, and you shall address me accordingly.
Did you say?
And I slammed the door.
You're like, I'm a man. I'm 40.
Great reference there, Kyle.
Thank you.
Everyone listening to this show likes college football. They should know
Yeah,
that.
they definitely should. And then, did you go by Maddie growing up? I can't remember if we talked about this before.
It was kind of a in and out sort of thing. Like sometimes in sports, coaches and teammates would call, especially coaches. I don't know why, but they seem to like that. But it was a phase, and then now no one calls me that.
I still get called.
That was just Betz.
Yeah, I still get called Borg like all the time by just different people, friends. But the coaches were the ones that's how they motivate. That's what we're here to do, right? As dynasty coaches, to motivate the people.
Yes.
Obviously.
And fellas, show number 10. Is this really number 10?
It is.
Hot out the gate. Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast still around.
The haters said that we'd go one and done.
Yeah, they did. They did. That one guy on Twitter.
You guys don't need to be doing this anymore. But on this show today, we're going to be talking about some dynasty trade targets. And I picked this topic out, and we've kind of discussed this because Mike, in the Ultimate Draft Kit Plus, has his own section. I mean, your face is on it, where you get you get to give your favorite trade targets. So we're going to talk about what makes a good trade target, who are some players that you might be able to acquire in the dead heat of the summer, because there are certain players, there's no chance. The hype is going to get out of control. We're going to see some people running around in shorts, and we're going to get to the point of the summer where everybody and anybody is hot mama stuff. But these are players that actually you could trade for. So that's what we're going to talk about on this show today. If you want to get everything that's included in our Dynasty package, it's the Dynasty Pass in the Ultimate Draft Kit Plus. It's live. People are doing drafts still, guys. They're doing rookie drafts. And I had someone the other day that messaged me and said, I totally forgot that all of your Superflex, all of your Dynasty rankings are in the Ultimate Draft Kit. But they're there. They're live. And people can refer to them whenever they want. So, yeah, guys, any updates you've gotten to do just in the last couple days in the Ultimate Draft Kit?
I mean,
I have one.
Oh, go ahead, Betsy.
Super exciting. In the team opportunity report, I got to let everyone know that Brashad Perryman is now Colt.
Yeah. Yes, he is. Gotta love that.
Yeah. There's updates. We're probably going to get updates this week on maybe DeAndre Hopkins' landing spot, Dalvin Cook. That's what I love about the Ultimate Draft Kit. It's always updating. It's always live. It's not an old magazine that you got and it's already out of print and it's not good. So you can get that at ultimatedraftkit.com. On today's show, I wanted to open up and ask this question because I mentioned earlier, Mike has a Dynasty trade target section, but I feel like it's kind of ambiguous sometimes what makes somebody a good trade target. Is it just like, I like this player? Or what's the starting place for you, Mike, in finding out, hey, this player is on my list and here's why I think people should trade for them?
Sure. So the first thing, it's really great when it works out and in your head you know of a very specific player. Like we're highlighting some players who we think are targets who are trade-worthy. But you can't, to me anyways, if you're going into a trade situation and you are hyper-fixated on one player, you're gonna have to pay over, which is okay. Like I firmly believe in sometimes you go out there, you go get your player, 2 years ago, I traded who he had not torn his ACL yet again, but I traded Odell Beckham and a second-round rookie pick for Michael Pittman, who was coming off of his rookie season, which was not like incredible. This wasn't a Garrett Wilson rookie season, but it was like, I see it. I see the path here for Michael Pittman. And I felt like I probably overpaid. I mean, turns out I didn't because, Odell Beckham didn't really hold on to his value there for a while. And the second round, I don't remember what the second turned into. But I went and I overpaid for that player. I felt really good about it. I think it has paid off for me. So when you have a very specific target, be prepared that you're going to overpay. But it's better to have just like a group of players who you are interested in. Then I start going through the teams of who has these players and just where do we fit in? Where does a trade work? Because going from a place where it is a fair trade and it helps both teams, that's the easiest way to pay market value in a trade. Because if you're going to someone and the trade is just not compatible, you can still make it work. You can still get the square into the round hole, but it's painful, and you end up paying the iron price. But that's how I look at it first. Identify a batch of players who I'm interested in, then start looking around at those teams and see if we are actually simpatico.
Betz, what about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of put down here on the doc just timing matters, for when you're trying to negotiate trades and specifically what types of players, right? Like when you're someone in your league that 5, 6, 7 weeks into the season, reality hits in and you're like, okay, I'm not winning this year. You're going to have players on your team that are valuable to other players in your dynasty league, especially contenders right now, that you can trade for better value than you can this time of year. For example, if we get to, week 8 and Keenan Allen, Kyle, I'll give you a shout out here. Keenan Allen is crushing it this year. Someone's going to want him. But if you're, 2 and 4, it's probably best to move on. And you'll be able to get more for him in season than you will right now. So timing to me matters when I'm trying to look for selling and also trading for guys. And I'll agree with Mike, kind of everything he said. You need to understand what your opponents and what your teammates in your leagues need, because if I have Justin Herbert and I don't know, Justin Fields, the Justins, in like a 1 quarterback league, and someone's like, hey man, I'll do this wide receiver plus Aaron Rodgers. It's like, that's not helping me. Like, why are we doing this, right? So it's a waste of time kind of thing. So you need to understand what your trade partner needs as far as positional, value on the roster, because that's the best way to get a deal done, in my opinion.
I'm going to jump in here and just echo that the timing matters, because Dynasty can be very tough because it's so much fun to trade. It's so much fun to go through the ideas, the mental exercise, trying to find these trade partners and make it happen. But if you're trying to optimize your value for a trade, you got to hold your water. Like heading into the NFL draft, I mean, over the course of April, because it's like the draft's at the end of April, your rookie picks go up in value. Now, there is an apex, like that's just a little bit before the draft, where that's when you decide, are you going to actually roll those dice or not? Because you can let the draft happen and then things fall where you didn't want them to, and things like Zach Charbonnet happens and you lose value. Like I had sent Kyle in our main Dynasty League. Kyle co-manages with Al Borland. I sent them what I thought was a pretty strong offer because I was trying to move up for Jackson Smith and Jigba. And it was, what was it, Kyle? Like the 105?
You were going to give us 2 picks.
I was going to give you the 105 and a first for next year.
Yes. To
move up to the 102. So I mean, it's a strong, healthy offer. And then day 1 happens, and it's Jackson Smith and Jigba goes to a place that I don't think is ideal. We've been over this. Fabulous player, landing spot's not ideal. But then all these other wide receivers landed in good spots, and it's like the value of my 105 skyrocketed. And I taunted them. I was like, in your face, you dummies. You should have taken my trade, because now I don't even want to move up. I'm going to get Jordan Addison here at 105. It's going to be fantastic. And then I didn't cash out there. I just kept rolling. I kept rolling. And then day 2 happens, and my dice hit craps because Zach Charbonnet goes to Seattle, blowing up the value of him going as a possible top 4 pick and leaving me now with Quentin Johnston instead of Jordan Addison. So timing is everything. And if you are in like stocks at all, if you've tried to play that Robin Hood game, buying at the bottom and selling at the top is a fool's errand and is nearly impossible. And sometimes you just have to say, this is high enough for me right now. Maybe if I wait a day or two longer, I'll get even more value. Or you go one day and then your stock craters and you're just left holding the bag. So be willing to take smaller victories. You don't always have to hit a grand slam, bottom of the ninth, and win the game.
Yeah, I think that's my thing I want to echo is you're just finding small edges in Dynasty with trades. And we're going to talk about some players today. It's like, hey, we're not telling you, hey, go trade for Garrett Wilson because you're going to have to, it's very hard and you're going to have to give a big package. But we're trying to find small edges. It's okay if a trade is even. Like, you don't have to just smash every single trade. And probably your league is not stupid. There's probably at least one person in your league that's very stupid. And you're thinking
everyone has a taco.
And you're thinking of them.
I was just going to say that, Mike.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I want to put this to the test with you two. Because, Betz, you mentioned Justin Fields. And if we were negotiating a trade between us, okay, I want to figure out what's fair value, and that's kind of my last piece of advice in making a good trade. We have a great article on the website, Negotiation Strategy, 5 Tips for Your Trades. It's finding the right value, but the problem with Dynasty and what we've mentioned on the show is that the values are somewhat arbitrary of what I think a player's worth and what somebody else is. So I'm going to give an offer to Mike, who, let's just say, Mike, you have Justin Fields in a 1-quarterback league.
Remind me, because I do about 50,000 recordings a week. Did we talk about my Justin Fields trade on this podcast?
You've talked about it on a trade before, but not specifically on the Dynasty podcast of what you got.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you want to start with your offer, or do you want me to say what I actually
I'll
did?
start with my offer, and then I want to see if it's actually in value. And then, Betz, I'm going to come to you with the Superflex offer for Justin Fields. And my goal is just saying, I have an idea in my head of what I think is fair value. And you guys might say, hey, that's way off, or that's more, and I'm actually winning the deal. So I just wanted to see, because I didn't talk to you guys about this at all. I'm just flinging it on you. But, Mike, in a 1-quarterback league, would you be open if I were to trade you a first-round pick and a young running back like, I don't know, Rashad White or Dameon Pierce?
Is this a future first? So, like,
Yes.
our rookie picks, our rookie drafts have already happened. This is a
2024.
What is next year? 2024?
Yeah.
A 2024 and someone like, let's just put Dameon Pierce in there for Justin Fields, and let's assume I have who as a backup.
Yeah, let's just say you actually are good at quarterback. Let's say you have, I don't know, Lamar.
So I have a good starter, and Justin Fields is like my backup. I would say, look, if you put your ear to the ground, people are talking already about these 2024 firsts.
Yes.
So that is extremely valuable, but I think the level of Dameon Pierce is not enough.
Okay.
I would say Pierce in the first is not enough to get it done.
Okay. But the offer wasn't offensive to you and your family.
No, not at all. Nope.
Why don't you tell people what you did trade away Justin Fields
Okay.
for?
So I'll single quarterback, and for the context, because the context is everything for dynasty trades, I have Jamar Chase. I traded Justin Fields, my sweet, sweet Justin Fields, and if you've been following the main pod for any length of time, you know that it's me and Kyle have been Thelma and Louise, the only two people supporting Justin Fields from the beginning. And so it felt unbelievable when it hit in the middle of last year. It was, we're going to live forever. Justin Fields is the greatest thing ever. So I was very emotionally attached to him, but I got offered Joe Burrow, and I trade away Justin Fields and a future second rounder. So a 2024 second, I trade Justin Fields. I get Burrow. I get the Burrow-Jamar Chase stack, which is very enticing. I mean, that going into a dynasty matchup and you look across the field and it's Burrow and Chase, that's going to make any team, no matter how strong, really freaked out that like three times throughout the year, those two players will win me the entire week. So it was tough, and I really thought about it. Like I didn't want to do it, and then it was just, Justin Fields is going to I think he's the truth. But that's a big thing. There is a world where Justin Fields flames out this year, and that's it, and they move on. And they have all these picks and everything, and they'll be able to do something. And Joe Burrow is locked. Joe Burrow will be the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback until he doesn't want to do it, or I mean, really, that's it. Till he doesn't want to do it anymore. So I took the safety, traded a second, and took the upgrade going to Burrow and got the stack.
Betz, I'm going to throw you a Superflex offer. So thinking about what we've talked about already, what if I offered you in a Superflex a future first-round pick and a stud young wide receiver like Devonta Smith? Also, I threw in an Eagles player just to make you think about it.
Ooh, see, that's another pro tip.
That's a tactic.
Yes, it
that
is.
You can use in your leagues. Find the fans on your team and trade them their players for more than they're worth. It's a strong offer, I think, but we've talked about it a little bit. These rookie picks, yes, they gain value, but they are also unknowns. And I think you throw in the Superflex portion of it. These guys are so hard to trade for that I would push the envelope. I would say, no, I need more. Like Justin Fields is the top 5 QB in redraft rankings. They just traded for DJ Moore. Like, it's his team, and I would leverage that, and I would try to get more.
Yeah, both of my offers, I thought to myself, I think these are strong enough to start the conversation. I'm not banking on them taking this first offer, but I do think it opens up the conversation where this person knows that I'm serious and knows that, like, I think we can build on that. And so there's a couple other tips in that article that Matt DeSorbo did that I just think it's really helpful. Of course, he used Harvard, papers, like actual like journal papers in the article.
Those are some smart papers.
I wrote down stuff and it got published and it's smart. Look at me. But yeah, if you want to get more of our trade targets, all of Mike's are found in the Dynasty Pass and the Ultimate Draft Kit. Let's talk some more trades.
Let's talk trades.
I have picked out a couple different categories for my fellow Dynasty brothers and sisters out there, but I wanted us to discuss players that I think people can acquire, right? Like it would be really easy on this podcast to say, hey, here's what you could trade to go get Bijan. And
everything. That's what it will cost.
Trade the world in a Superflex. Okay, here's what you got to do to go get Josh Allen right now. It's not happening. But what about the players that will actually help your roster that you could acquire maybe on the cheap, that maybe are undervalued in your league's eyes? That's the kind of players I want to talk about today. So the first category is give me a cheaper veteran running back, maybe somebody that could be an RB3, an RB4 for a team to bolster your depth. And Betz, I will let you start first because you've been talking about this guy forever, and Mike's just getting on board.
Yeah, Mike has never really been a huge fan of Antonio Gibson over the course of time.
But
here we are.
What has happened? What has happened?
Whose champion is it now, Mike? Isn't this Andy's champion or Jason's?
I believe that both of them are trying to claim Antonio Gibson, and it's what is happening? Why is Antonio Gibson all of a sudden like the hotness?
Well, Mike was on it before it was cool.
Yeah.
And then it was cool, and then Mike was like, all right, yeah, no, I'm out.
Yeah, I had to bail.
But Antonio Gibson is a player we've seen the peak of his value, where he was a top 12 running back in fantasy a couple years in a row. He was awesome. You took him as a second-round rookie pick, most likely, sometimes in the third, and it hit, and it was like, whoa, this guy is awesome. Things have changed in Washington. I think expecting anything close to that is a little bit unrealistic, but there's a change happening in Washington with Eric Bieniemy coming in. And we're seeing, I have on the doc here just the splits between what Washington has been with their former OCs and what KC has been. Now, I want to give a huge caveat. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are a lot of the reason why these stats are the way they are, but they were first in pass rate over expectation 3 years in a row and top 7 in pace 3 years in a row. And let's just say he brings some of that. We've seen that system do very well with a pass-catching running back. Brian Robinson, I think, is an okay between the tackles type of grinder. Ron Rivera likes him. That's his boy. But there's a lot of, I think, opportunity here for Antonio Gibson to turn in, like in PPR leagues, quietly like a top 30, maybe top 25 sort of running back season, which doesn't sound sexy, and it's not. But in Dynasty, you need these guys on your roster as a contender to help get you over the edge, to help fill in for bye weeks, for injuries, as a flex play, stuff like that. And specifically what I want to point to here is the J.D. McKissic opportunity that is now gone. Remember, he's off the team, had the neck injury. I'm not even sure if he's going to still be in the league, but he's not on the roster, and that is massive because since 2020, here are the top 5 running back target leaders in the NFL over the last few seasons. Eckler, Kamara, Lombardi Len, a.k.a. Uncle Len, a.k.a. Leonard Fournette, DeAndre Swift, and J.D. McKissick. So there is a massive value for Antonio Gibson here, and obviously you get a huge boost in PPR leagues. So right now it feels like people are kind of just meh on Gibson, but I actually really like him this year. I think he can be a surprise, helpful player for contenders.
Beyond just this year, do you feel like Gibson's more than just a 2023 play? Like, what kind of contract do you feel like Gibson could get?
Yeah, it depends on how teams value his skill set, which is mostly as a pass catcher, I think, at this point. Those guys don't tend to get huge deals, but I could easily see him after this year signing a 2-year deal for $6 million or something like that. So he's going to still be on a roster beyond this year, guaranteed. I'm not sure if it'll be a good situation or not, but I think right now this is a move you make if you're a contender and you hope for the best after this year.
And Mike, you're giving your seal of approval on this comment, right?
Of course. Antonio Gibson is a great player. The hard part is Washington is full of stupidity, and like those stupid people that are still there. Even though it was great, those first 2 years with Gibson for fantasy was sensational. But they've misused him the entire time that he has been there, despite using a 3rd-round draft pick to get him. It's been baffling. So you hope that Eric Bieniemy can bring some sanity into the equation and fix how they're using Gibson. But once when McKissick left, we had a really strong run. Well, I mean, Gibson opened the season as a top 15 running back weeks 1 and 2 because Robinson was recovering from his injury of being shot. And then in the middle of the season, you kind of saw when McKissick kind of left the equation, he rattled off another month or so of being a top 15 running back. So Gibson can do it. If Robinson misses time, you have that built-in upside as well. And I think that the market out there at large is not as heavy on Antonio Gibson as into Antonio Gibson as they should be.
Mike, you have a player on here who I will say isn't the sexiest.
Oh, yeah, it is not.
It's your boy Devin Singlebills. So sell me on Singletary.
So Devin Singletary, former Buffalo Bills running back. He is now a Houston Texan. Okay, I mean, right there we now have 2 strikes because Devin Singletary's name is not inspiring confidence. Then we say Houston Texans, a team that is on the rebuild, a team that had a breakout performance from Dameon Pierce as a rookie this past year. But here's the deal. Devin Singletary is still young for a running back. He is not 26. He will turn 26 this season. Last year, quietly over 1,100 total yards. Used a bunch in the red zone. You can jump in the UDK. One of our favorite features there is the red zone report. 40 touches inside the 20. That was tied for 12th most among running backs. Like that's pretty crazy. That's a pretty heavy utilization. The 8th most routes run among running backs, and then to put the kind of like the stamp on it is this regime, because the Houston Texans cleared house. You have new people running everything. The people in charge right now, they did not choose Dameon Pierce. He's not their guy. They did choose Devin Singletary to come in and provide some depth. I'm not saying that the new people look at Dameon Pierce and go, "Oh, he doesn't have it," and abandon and turn away. But Dameon Pierce built his fantasy value completely on just like a volume that is not sustainable. You're talking 80+% of the running back market share, which is absolutely ridiculous in today's NFL. It's very James Robinson from his breakout year with the Jaguars that it was all him all the time. Devin Singletary, he got a decent amount of money to go be a player for the Houston Texans. And when you bring in a player like Singletary, I know the markets aren't hot for running backs, and this is all kind of philosophical, but it's like Singletary certainly could have found a home where he has a better opportunity to win. But Devin Singletary, so it's the if there's a tax. When you're a bad team, there is a tax that you have to pay some players to entice them to come in. And I think that's what they did with Devin Singletary. They gave him some money, some good running back money, and they had to have told him, hey, you're going to play X amount. Like, you don't just go sign up to be on the Houston Texans without some knowledge that you are going to be involved in the game plan. You can't do that, especially if you're on a one-year deal. So I think that Devin Singletary is a much larger threat to Dameon Pierce than the Dameon Pierce truthers want to publicly say out loud. I don't know, maybe they feel it inside, but Devin Singletary is a good player. He was much better than anything that Buffalo had at that point at the running back position. He kept James Cook off the field, second-round pick. People really excited about him. Zach Moss was supposed to come in and be the grinder for Buffalo. That didn't work out. Kept being Devin Singletary. And Singletary had some really big fantasy performances last year. So I think that he is a name that, like, bare minimum, it's not going to cost a lot to go and trade for Devin Singletary. He's the type of a name where I can hone in on him specifically, go to the team that has Singletary, and if they have any sort of running back depth, I'm like, what's it going to cost to part with Devin Singletary? And they're like, I don't know, a third? And you're like, okay, we'll do that. So go kick some tires.
That was the price that I had in my head. It was real simple. It's like, okay, so you're not saying Devin Singletary is going to be this difference maker. The person you're trading with hopefully understands, like, this is a depth piece. This is why you're adding them. So yeah, a late second, early third round rookie pick can get the deal done. And I think we've said on this podcast before, like, seconds and especially thirds, when people send me trade offers and say, hey, what about adding in a third? Every time I'll say yes. It's not a big deal. So
right, yeah, because you should not value your third. The lotto ticket of a third-round pick or the known of Devin Singletary, like, almost every time, give me the known that Singletary is a good player.
I want to throw out one more veteran dude. It's Jeff Wilson. My name is Jeff, 27 and a half years old.
My name is Jeff.
The Dolphins, we're not sure what their plan is, right? They don't even know. Let's be honest.
And honestly, like, this recommendation, which I'm all about it, this recommendation could self-destruct.
For sure.
In a week.
Yes.
It could honestly self-destruct while we're recording
During this podcast, it could destruct.
Which is part of our...
I will look for breaking news just in case.
That is part of our warning. Just the disclaimer we give on this podcast is if we're going to give a take, it should die while you listen to it. But listen, Jeff Wilson... Right now, like, I'm best ball. He's my highest running back, exposure, because I feel like this year his opportunity is being overlooked by a lot of people. Just for this year, he averaged 4.9 yards per carry last year. He had 13 runs of 15 plus yards. That was tied with some guy named Christian McCaffrey for ninth most among running backs. Like, he's a big play guy, and in the same vein, we're talking with Devin Singletary. It's not going to take very much to get Jeff Wilson on a roster. And we've seen him over the last 3 or 4 years be somebody that you can plug and play when the opportunity is there to give you RB2 weeks. Like last year, he did it right after he was traded to Miami. So I love acquiring players like this in the offseason just to bolster depth. And here's some players in this category that I feel like you could trade them away and get one of these veteran running backs. So Jeff Wilson, Antonio Gibson, Devin Singletary, Tyquan Thornton, Sky Moore. These are players that people maybe spent last year rookie picks on or maybe weren't that happy, but would you rather have Sky Moore or Antonio Gibson in a Dynasty league right now?
Ooh. I think
I would still take Gibson. But we talked a lot on this podcast about Sky Moore. I would not have Jeff Wilson in front of Sky Moore. I'd rather just keep the lottery ticket there.
Of the three we mentioned, Gibson's the only player I would take. I wouldn't trade Moore for like Singletary.
What I was thinking is that if there's a team in your league that has Antonio Gibson and they're not contending, they're trying to rebuild, you can easily sway them with somebody like Sky Moore, who's a young piece. They're trying to rebuild. I feel like those are the kind of players that you can find those edges where if you're a contender, you want running backs and you want them on your roster. So we'll talk about some more categories in just a sec. Let's take a quick break. All right, guys, I'm ready to get nasty. I'm ready for you guys to tell me I'm wrong because I want to talk about undervalued quarterbacks. Yeah, and I'm not scared. to bring it up again. I'm not scared to bring it up.
Unlimited.
Can I bring up Russell Wilson? And I have a gripe.
I mean, look, you can. I don't know if Betz is on board, but you can go ahead and do this.
Okay.
You do you, Kyle.
I will do it. For a player that's 34 and a half years old, Russell Wilson, under contract until he's 40.
No, that's what.
That's what it is. Now, guaranteed,
Whoopsies.
they can get out in like 3 or 4 years, but he's going to be a Bronco, okay? And you can tell yourself a lot of different stories about the Broncos last year. Like, oh, by the way, they lost the most amount of games due to injuries, according to Football Outsiders, okay? You could tell yourself a story that Nathaniel Hackett is just not a good head coach, and he's meant to be an offensive coordinator, and that Sean Payton is a savior. You could tell yourself a story that they have a fourth-place schedule this year, and that he did actually have more blow-up games than Justin Herbert or Daniel Jones or Kirk Cousins last year. But who would you rather have right now in a dynasty league? Okay, Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, the reason
I'll
why
go Rodgers.
I think Aaron Rodgers is getting a pass for putting together an atrocious season last year for fantasy. Like, he was really, really bad. He averaged fewer points than Russell Wilson, and yet he goes to a new team, and we're like, everything's going to be great with, of course, Nathaniel Hackett, who is MVP.
Is the fewer points, is that like because the last
this is
the 2 games against the Chiefs?
No, this is points
Wilson
per
up?
game. Points per game. Russell Wilson averaged more points.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Of like, Russell Wilson had 2 monster games against the Chiefs. Is that where the padding came in and saved him?
Well, Aaron Rodgers didn't pad at all. Dude didn't score 20 points in one game the entire year.
That doesn't fit my narrative, Mike, Kyle says.
It didn't at all. What I want to say is that I think this is a player that the sentiment is he's done, and yet his contract and his age and a new coaching staff and a healthier team says you can get a lot more than what he did last year, which was about QB 16. Like, if Russell Wilson in a Superflex league ends up as a top 12 quarterback, I don't think any of us are shocked by that. And that's where I think that there's an edge.
A little bit.
If he was top 12,
A little bit shocked, yeah.
I think it's well within the realm, and I think you can acquire him for about QB 20 pricing, because that's where people are thinking. So I think Russell Wilson's a great trade for target, and in the Superflex leagues, I would be totally fine with him as my QB2. Call me out, guys.
Yeah, no, we did.
I kind of laughed at you, but and Mike definitely laughed at you. But I do understand where this is coming from, right? Because we talked about kind of the stock market, right? Like, you buy when it's the lowest and you try to sell when it's the highest, in theory. Everyone made fun of Russell Wilson and the Broncos last year for good reason, but it's hard to get starting quarterbacks in a Superflex league, and you can. Whoever has Russell Wilson saw what happened last year. Like, they lived it, and I think you can get him for a very cheap price. Like, do you think what would you have to give up for Russell Wilson if you're talking rookie picks in a Superflex league?
I think that you're going to find somebody that if he's their third quarterback, they would do it for a first. And
I would keep the first, but I think you could do it for a second, maybe 2 seconds.
I don't think
something like that.
I think people want the security in a Superflex league. It's what we talked last week with Jason.
You would trade a first.
I would trade a late first.
I would not.
I would.
Wow.
Kyle, you're sick.
You're sick. Do you guys know how hard it is to acquire a quarterback in a Superflex?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I wish we were in a league together where I could just get a first for Russell Wilson right now.
Okay, you think that somebody would trade a second?
I see your point.
No way nobody's going to.
I don't know. I just know no one would give up a first.
Okay, well, people are taking Will Levis in the first round in Superflex leagues.
Well, people do dumb stuff.
Like eat bananas with the peel on.
I'll get to use Levis as like the negative case, just like, but Will Levis, just like any argument, and just bring it up. Well, Betz,
watch Will Levis come out and just be awesome next year.
Why don't you bring up a quarterback that I will not be trading for, but you can?
Yeah, Kyle likes to talk about the dusty old guys in the league, 35 years old. Let's talk about Daniel Jones, who is 26 years old, just signed the contract, 4 years, $160 million. So he has the job security that we know he's going to be starting for the Giants for a couple of seasons at least. And finally, and shocker, guys, when you don't have, Joe Judge and Jason Garrett out there running this clown show, good things happen when you play to your quarterback strength, which Brian Daboll did last year. They did upgrade the offensive line previously. They traded for Darren Waller. They bring in a vertical threat that we're a little skeptical on how he translates to the NFL, but the point remains they add Jalen Hyatt with some speed. They drafted Wan'Dale Robinson last year. They signed a bunch of random dudes to one-year contracts, but they are trying to, I think, and obviously Saquon Barkley, try to support him, at least for this year, with weapons. And, we really didn't see the elite rushing that he's capable of until last year with Brian Daboll, and I think that's here to stay for at least a couple seasons. So Daniel Jones, look, he has his flaws, obviously, but if he does keep running the way he has, or he did last year, I should say, which was a 120, 708, and 7 touchdown season, something along those lines, like he's going to finish likely as a back-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2 at worst. And I feel like a lot of circles you can say, well, Daniel Jones is ranked as my quarterback 15 or 16 or, whatever. I would have him higher. I think you can get him and have a locked-in starter for a couple years.
I get trying to acquire a starter. I also, if I were to put the betting odds, I think we just saw the best fantasy season of Daniel Jones' career. That's where I put it at.
Yeah, I would say maybe.
So
maybe not.
Yeah, I mean,
he finally gets year 2 with Brian Daboll. I mean,
for sure.
Wheels up, brother.
If you have a thing for Paris Campbell and Jamison Crowder and Wan'Dale Robinson, but
Sterling Shepard,
I like him more as a QB2, but I feel like he's being thought of as a back end QB1 right now. So I wonder where the right price is in a trade.
Do you have his startup ADP by chance, Kyle?
I can look it up, but last time I saw it was around QB12.
Okay, that seems fair.
Yeah. Mike, who you got?
All right. So Kyle has old, Betz has young, and I'm right in the Goldilocks zone. I think that the sentiment on this quarterback is gone out of control. I don't know that he is being properly valued for what he has provided over plenty of seasons that we know who he is. It is Dak Prescott, starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, who last year, he finished as the quarterback 18. But as soon as this guy was back, I mean, you had multiple games. We had 6 games as a top 10 quarterback, and just a few games where you're like, the final game of the season, you were pretty disappointed in that one. But other than that, it was a good run here for Dak Prescott, who has been, a fantastic quarterback historically. We've seen him be a top 12 guy every year that he's played 16 or 17 games, I should say, because we're now at 17. But when he plays a full season, Dak Prescott is a QB1, and he has CeeDee Lamb, and now a player that I think is going completely under the radar. Like, they added Brandon Cooks. Is Brandon Cooks toast? I don't think so. I think that Brandon Cooks can still be a good player in the NFL. And it's so weird to me that what is outshining everything for the Cowboys is Mike McCarthy, and which I get it. Mike McCarthy is just being a big stupid head with his getting rid of a high-flying offense because he wants his defense to rest. And I get it, that these are becoming – this is the narrative, right, that they're not going to throw as much. They got – it's Schottenheimer, right?
Schottenheimer.
Look, they're doing stupid things there. But Dak Prescott is a very talented quarterback. CeeDee Lamb is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Brandon Cooks still has the juice, in my opinion, to be a top 24 wide receiver for fantasy football. And all these things together for a guy who's just about to turn 30, led the NFL in red zone completion percentage. When he came back, he was on pace for 4,200 yards and 35 touchdowns. I think that the noise of the offense is getting too loud, and the noise of his turnovers last year is too loud. Yeah, he had a very poor year. He threw 15 interceptions in 12 games. But go back and look historically who he is. That is not who Dak Prescott is. He's not a just wild man with the ball, turning it over all the time. He's safe. He's going to be their quarterback. He's good. He's surrounded by weapons. And I don't understand why people aren't excited for Dak. Maybe that's what it is. When I say the name Dak Prescott, if you're talking redraft, people aren't excited. And I think that people should be excited that they've drafted a top 10 quarterback yet again.
Yeah, Betz and I have talked about this on the DFS and betting podcast that there's kind of been this overcorrection about what they're going to do this year in running the ball. When you look at the roster, you look at their moves, it's actually said the opposite, like that they're going to throw more, that Michael Gallup's actually going to be healthy. I mean, we talked about their depth chart, right, Betz? Like, it's just rough behind Pollard.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about with one of the Nasty Boys segments previously, saying like, you know what, these guys are out there for free. Pick up Ronald Jones just in case. Pick up Malik Davis just in case. But right now, the roster says that they're not going to be as running heavy as the media has taken that one quote and spun it completely to be like, well, they're going back to 1997 and they're going to run the ball over and over again. I would love to fade that narrative, and I have this season, especially in like best ball. Like, Dak Prescott goes so late compared to how good he is. And I agree, you can say to someone in your league, like, hey man, Dak's going to turn 30. Like, you know, this is the time to get out. Like, you should trade him to me. So I maybe don't say that, but I do think that Dak is a great target this year as a guy that people overblow so much, specifically the turnovers. And in fantasy, the turnovers don't really matter that much. So even if he, for some reason, doesn't return to form, which I do think he will, Mike, I think Dak's an incredible trade target.
Using the classic tactic of, hey, let me trash this player that I'm trying to acquire.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that, actually.
Because that never works.
I have a friend that is his tactic when he wants to trade with me in a dynasty, that he always just, I guess he's trying to get the price down or something. But I'm like, dude,
let me tell you how bad this player is.
But I want him on my team.
I'm doing you a favor.
I know.
Just let me trade for him.
Let's talk about one more category here. A wide receiver with a sneaky opportunity. So somebody that maybe is being overlooked and you think that you can acquire them on the cheap. So Betz, you have two dudes here.
Betz is going chips all in on the Giants. What's going on here, man?
Apparently I'm a huge Giants fan, which I'm not. I'm actually an Eagles fan. But the player I'm going to talk about, or players, because I think these guys can both be acquired for peanuts, a third-round rookie pick in your league, is Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins, if you need a wide receiver for your roster this year. Now, they made a ton of transactions this offseason. I already talked about drafting Jalen Hyatt. He's a third-round rookie. There was an article in The Athletic recently speaking to the fact that those beat writers are seeing, well, maybe it's going to take some time for him to translate to the NFL. Jamison Crowder is a slot wide receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson is a slot wide receiver coming off a torn ACL. Sterling Shepard is a slot wide receiver. Paris Campbell is just Paris Campbell. And these guys are all signed to one-year deals. Specifically for Darius Slayton, there are two wide receivers, or three, signed beyond this season. Obviously, Wan'Dale Robinson because he was a rookie last year, Jalen Hyatt because he's a rookie this year, and Darius Slayton. Everyone else, a one-year deal. So they have said financially, like Darius Slayton, he was almost forgotten by the franchise. They were like trying to move on, but then they were like, wait a minute, we actually need you. And they signed him to pretty healthy money. Like, he's making over $4 million this year, $7 million the year after. From weeks 5 to 17, they rested their starters in week 18. He was on pace for over 1,000 yards. That's like, he was a pretty good piece for that offense. And granted, I understand Darren Waller was not there last year. I understand that that's a huge factor, specifically in the red zone. So I'm not sure Darius Slayton's ever going to give you top 30 production. But as like a wide receiver 5, 6, 7 for your dynasty team where you can plug him in on bye weeks and stuff like that, there's opportunity in New York. And when you look at the depth chart, there's a lot of redundancy with these guys. But the one guy that they don't have specifically are these perimeter, bigger body wide receivers, which is why I think it's totally fine to throw a dart, throw a third-round rookie pick at someone in your league that has Slayton or Hodgins and hope you hit on the guy that's going to be playing meaningful snaps for the Giants this year.
I think we forget that as a rookie, he had 740 yards, but he had 8 touchdowns with Daniel Jones. So Darius Slayton is one of the weirder players out there, but I think he fits the archetype of a player that you can plug in that can hit the variance on a team that, yes, they don't throw a ton, but I think it wouldn't shock me if Darius Slayton had 6, 7 touchdowns and he's being valued as somebody that almost like people are like, oh yeah, he's on my roster, I might cut him next year. Like nobody wants him. So I agree, Betz. I think he's definitely cheap enough. And he's kind of in the same mold as the guy that you have here, Mike, like deep threat. And I think sneaky good compared to what people think.
Yeah, I want to talk about Van Jefferson of the Los Angeles Rams. He will turn 27 this year. He is entering a contract year. But we're just one season removed from 50 for 806. And this is the same argument of look at the depth chart and who are the Los Angeles Rams? Well, the knowns that we have right now, Matthew Stafford, it looks like he is going to be back. Sean McVay turned everything down, all the big money to go be a commentator for Amazon or whatever he was offered. Sean McVay is going to be back. Cooper Kupp, he's back and he'll be healthy. He could have eventually made it back last year, but they shut it all down because they were playing for nothing. They were playing for 2023. So those three things are true and active. Okay, now what is the rest of it? Well, we're projecting. We think Cam Akers will have a good season as the starting running back. I think so. But then, what else? What else do we know? Tyler Higbee, he'll catch 100 passes for approximately 450 yards. This is going to be a PPR thing. Van Jefferson is it. He is the big play guy on this team. He has hit big plays for them in the past. His volume could easily go up. And if Matthew Stafford is back and healthy, I think there's a world where Van Jefferson is easily a top 40 wide receiver on the year, and the Rams are better than everyone thinks on the offensive side of the football. So I think that Van Jefferson is just he has name fatigue because we've wanted him to be something, and the Rams have wanted him to be something, but at the same time the Rams have not done anything to address saying no. We don't think Van Jefferson can be the future for us. They've done the opposite. It's Cooper Kupp. It's Van Jefferson. Robert Woods is gone. Brandon Cooks is long gone, multiple years. And they haven't done anything at wide receiver. So if Stafford still has something left and they are playing for something, Van Jefferson becomes extremely interesting.
Both of the players that you guys looked at, I looked up their projection in our Ultimate Draft Kit, and I thought both of them were very fair. Just level, okay, this is what this player is. But it shocked me because the players that were right around them statistically were much more high-profile names like Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is going to give you a similar archetype of Van Jefferson and Darius Slayton. 900 yards, maybe he'll hit 6-7 touchdowns. But these players are going way cheaper than what Gabe Davis is. So I just thought it was interesting because Gabe Davis was such a hot name last year that we thought would take off. But when you compare, there's so many other players that are going to give you replacement level production that are just super cheap. So yeah, I think Van Jefferson, he's a bit older as a prospect, when he came in, but I still think he's the number 2. Is there any argument that there's anybody else? I mean, I know you're a Ben Skoranek guy.
Well, he's fun to talk about because you sing Ben Skoranek.
And Tutu, he's still alive, right?
Is he? I mean, yeah. That's what. Is he on the team? I don't know.
He still doesn't know. They haven't given him the intel yet of hey buddy, you're on the team. So,
real quick before we move on from the Rams and we keep making fun of Tutu, in all seriousness, people forget Van Jefferson had knee surgery in the offseason heading into last year, then had to have a second procedure right at the start of training camp. Missed the first couple of games. They put him on IR. So if he stayed healthy, I mean, there was a real possibility that when Allen Robinson was just out there farting around, if Van Jefferson was healthy, they would have probably been you know what, dude, sorry, Van Jefferson's in. So I think this is, and I'm doing a podcast this week for jointhefoot.com supporters talking about quietly, under the radar bounce back candidates for injury. I'll be talking about Van Jefferson on that podcast this week. I think he's an incredible value. No one wants him, but he's going to be out there running a ton of routes on a team that wants to throw the football.
I'm going to throw out one more player here that lost all of his rookie year. It's John Mechie III. And I want to just give some context of what kind of player he is because we haven't seen him play in the NFL. The Texans took him 44th overall. He'll be 23 years old when the season starts. But let's go back to when he was at Alabama when he was drafted, okay, and why he was taken in the second round. I think that was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people that he had that high of draft capital. And then he goes to the Texans and everyone just goes, well, that's laughable because nobody knows what they're doing. But if you go to the last time we saw him on a football field, 2021, his targets per route run number dwarfed what Jameson Williams was on the same team. It was at 27% for Mechie, 23% for Williams, and they're very different players, different archetypes. And so with Mechie, you're not getting the Van Jefferson down the field type of targets. You're getting a player that can earn targets on a team that's desperately needs it. The depth chart, Nico Collins, Robert Woods, who's 48 years old, and then Tank Dell, who, let's be honest, I'm bigger than the dude, all right? I'm just...
Who's bigger, Tutu or Tank?
Oh, man.
I honestly don't even
thicker?
know.
Is that what you're asking? Who's the thicker boy?
Just who's bigger? Who weighs more?
Tutu breaks all of our... Do we still have that website where you can measure how big you are in tutus?
It wasn't ours.
Oh, it was a good website.
Someone
for a
made
while.
it.
But John Mechie has the opportunity. It's still a gamble based on what this team is with a rookie quarterback. But there's an opportunity here for a player that is way bigger than Tank Dell. And Tank Dell, you're betting on somebody who had the college production, but everybody in his bracket of size in the NFL is just, it's Jamison Crowder at best is what you're looking for. So I'd rather bet on Mechie, and I think you can get him on the cheap right now. Would you rather have Mechie or a second-round rookie pick?
Oh, that's tough. That's very fair. I might lean the second just because the new coaching staff and the moves they made at wide receiver. They obviously have to give themselves some security in the event that he can't fully recover and be the guy that they drafted him to be. But I see your point for sure. I think I'd personally rather have the second.
All right.
I lean Mechie because it's just like thinking of Dynasty and Dynasty value with CJ Stroud. He was my favorite quarterback in this draft. I think that Stroud's going to be great. It's not going to work out for Mechie this year. Just the probability is so against him being something. But if Mechie shows anything this year, and you're looking at, this is CJ Stroud moving forward with John Mechie, and Mechie looks like he could be the number one for this, then that becomes really valuable. So I'm going to take the player and see if I can increase some value over the season before I just call it off for a future second.
Put these second-round players from last year in order. Okay, so John Mechie, Tyquan Thornton, Sky Moore. They're all kind of a place where, I don't know what they are. And Thornton...
Give me the names again.
Sky Moore, Tyquan Thornton, or John Mechie.
Oh, man. That's
gross.
I feel like they're interchangeable
that's
based on who had them. So if somebody had Mechie, yeah. If somebody had Mechie, they're like, I didn't have a year from him. Somebody had Thornton, it felt like they didn't have a year. If someone took Sky Moore, which, let's be honest, people, he was going in the first round last year of rookie picks. He was 107, 108 for people. So who would you rather have?
So I'll say this. I've been pretty anti-Sky Moore. It's just in looking at probability. The probability of wide receivers with that background who don't show up in year one, the probability that they turn into something of fantasy value is very low. But I did hear a lot of people out of Kansas City kind of talking about it takes these rookies a while to acclimate to the Kansas City offense. So maybe there is still that's just a small little crack of light coming in here of hope for Sky Moore.
We're back in, Mike, huh?
No. No, we are not back in. But I'm going to at least leave the light on. The door's not propped open, but the light is sitting on that maybe things could turn around if everything that they're saying about the difficulty of the offense, if that holds true.
And I will say, too, just as a tiebreaker for those three, just give me the best quarterback on the planet and a great offense as the tiebreaker. Yeah,
that's where I was going to go with Thornton. Is I think he's a very interesting player, but what is the actual ceiling and future for the New England Patriots? I mean, it's crazy that what is it? Because it sounds like they're not too sure that it's Mac Jones, as they played flip flop with Zappy last year, and they went zap zap zap. And what can Mac Jones actually become? What can Mac Jones sustain fantasy-wise with Uncle Bill calling the plays for him? What kind of wide receiver can he really prop up? A top 36 guy? Meanwhile, CJ Stroud is an unknown. I think Stroud will be a better quarterback than Mac Jones. So that has me leaning that I go Mechie, Sky Moore, Tyquan Thornton.
I think I go in the same order. When I look at, I have a prospect database where I look at every single rookie for the last 10 years. Tyquan Thornton is just chilling down there with the likes of Chris Conley, JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I mean, just the Terrace Marshall, just players that in year one underperform so badly in yards per route run that they don't return. There are a couple names down there that give you a little glimmer of hope. Mike Williams was really bad as a rookie, like just completely trash.
Are you talking 10 touchdown Mike Williams?
No, not as a rookie.
He wasn't?
No, that was his second year.
Hold on. Am I remembering Mike Williams all wrong?
Yes, you are. Not as a rookie.
Oh, because he had the back problem as a rookie.
Yeah, he was kind of on and off.
That's right.
So there's a certain point with rookies where if they go below like 1 yard per route run, it's almost a death sentence. And then there are like outliers, like, I don't know, Devontae Adams is a part of this group, and he turned it around. Mike Williams did. But then there's like the N'Keal Harrys of the world. So Thornton is somebody that I'm just going to bet against based on his archetype, and I think he was overdrafted. But they're interesting players. Like, these are the fun players that are just down in value that I think you could trade for right now. And I think Mechie has the safest route to just having some volume where, I don't know, like they drafted another wide receiver in Kansas City this year. Sky Moore could be 4th among wide receivers on that team, which is pretty wild. That's going to do it on this episode. Next week, we will be talking AFC teams. Betz and I will get to go through teams that we think have the most to gain in Dynasty over these next couple of months. That's going to do it for us. Check us out at ultimatedraftkit.com if you want to get a part of the Dynasty Pass. We'll see you later.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your Dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.